Like my fellow panelists, I've been asked to make some remarks about the future of commemoration, or to ruminate on the question of what national commemoration could look like over the next 100 years. And this question is very interesting to me because my work does look to the past, but it really has a keen eye on the future, primarily. My work for the past 2 decades as a heritage consultant and a history education strategist is focused on youth. So while I'm thinking about the past, I always have an eye on the future because I'm thinking about what does that 15-year-old, what does that 10-year-old, what does that 6-year-old need from the past in order to move forward to the future. But to start my remarks, I am going to look to the past, and I want to focus on the origins of the word commemoration. So, commemoration comes from the Latin to bring to remembrance. The structure of this definition is interesting. To bring is an infinitive without a subject or tense, and remembrance is further defined as to bring to mind. So, with the roots of this word, commemoration means to bring, being brought to remembrance. Another way we could think about this, that's maybe a little less wordy, is to think about commemoration as being the spark of people's memories. Whether they have that memory or this commemorative moment is trying to make that a memory for them. In national commemoration, this idea is meant to put a stake in the ground, literally, about the people, places, and events that define and define Canada, to bring to people's minds who we are, what we've done, and where, so that we remember, linking with Quebec's motto. To lead us into the future, however, to think not just what has come before, but what can be to come, the stake in the ground for defining Canada is not enough. To think about the future of commemoration, commemoration has to be democratic, it has to be participatory, it should be restorative, and commemoration for the next 100 years should be radical, if you're brave enough. So, what do I mean when I say democratic and participatory? Well, I mean what you probably think I mean. And what other speakers today have demonstrated, we need to ensure that we're representing the histories of many people in Canada, and that the determination of who and what gets commemorated is able to be a discussion that many can have. In other words, if you look around the room and everyone looks like you in terms of age, gender, ethnicity, class, education background, sexuality, ability, it's time to rework that criteria. But I also mean more than that. There is no reason in today's highly connected digital world that we shouldn't be using commemorative tools to engender greater conversations about what and who should be remembered and how. There is no reason that we shouldn't be asking people to share the memories that they want brought to remembrance, so that we crowdsource, for lack of a better term, a network, a matrix of stories, experiences, and memories that better demonstrate the past, present, and future of Canada. Why can't our plaques invite us into the past, present, and future of Canada? Why can't our exhibits and other modes of commemoration? In driving up to see family in Northern Ontario, I often pass a plaque for the Oro-Medente community. A community I'm familiar with my research on Black Canadian history. But what if rather than just pass this plaque, and I know it's provincial, so forgive me for that, what if rather than just pass this plaque, I was able to stop and scan an image that led me to a reconstructed 19th century community? What if I could further look at records and artifacts from the people that lived in that community? Why couldn't I further understand whose traditional lands this was on and what treaty covers this territory? What if I learned about community or fundraising campaigns that was based in this community so that I could participate or share my memories or experiences with that? What if I was able to link to other sorts of sites in the Black diaspora, as well as to be able to understand the transnational histories that are brought to this site, where the original settlers, the Black settlers, came from in America or Britain, and where their ancestors were brought from Africa. With this as a commemorative portal, what then would be brought to remembrance is not just a place of the past, but a participatory experience of the past, present, and future as well. An experience that would better situate who I am in this place and connect me with a longer legacy of community across and beyond place and space. This moment being brought to remembrance is now not just a stake in the ground, but a layered conversation. A layered, democratic, participatory conversation, not just about the past, but about our present and future as well. Thinking about the multiple ways that we can spark and engender memories means that we can start thinking about how more memories can rise to the surface and be shared with others as part of stories of this place. For example, my grandfather grew up in Toronto. A long-told family story was when my grandfather's father caught him gambling again, and he very hurriedly ran out of the house and away from home. My grandfather's youngest brother took my grandfather's shoes and threw them out the window, so at least he wouldn't be barefoot as well as potentially homeless. This was always a funny story in our family, but also never had a clear location. Even though I knew the streets where my grandfather grew up, memories shift, placings change, and I really had no idea where or if this place currently existed. And then, I was able to share a photograph from the Toronto Public Library's archive that was shared by Vintage Toronto. And my great aunt, my grandfather's sister, said, "Wherever did you find that photo? I remember those large windows." This photo was of the building that my grandfather's family grew up in. While this photograph was taken about a decade or two before they moved in, there it was, in the flesh, kind of. And because it's the 21st century, I was able to do a Google Street View search of this building and found the location in the present. I could look at the windows, or in some cases just the location of the windows, and imagine where my great uncle threw my grandfather's shoes down on him before he escaped to my grandmother's house in Cabbagetown. This is a silly little family story with no national or provincial or municipal significance, but it's fun and foundational for my family nevertheless, and could be mapped onto this site as a way to demonstrate the layers of stories we make and bring with us to places. And so when I say democratic and participatory, I mean that we should have a greater diversity of peoples and say in our commemorative spaces. I mean that we should encourage the interaction of these moments with the public. And I also mean making space for stories like this to be able to live somewhere, to map onto something as a form and function of commemoration. This is what a fully democratic and participatory remembrance is about. The ability to have your memories be seen and respected as an integral part of a larger story. Because it's not just my story that I want to share. I want to share the stories I have yet to know. I want to learn the stories that I have yet to see. The stories that can color these places with a greater variety of experiences that expand my understanding of place beyond myself. And this is what it means to be both democratic and participatory. So, we should be democratic and participatory, but we also should be restorative. And what do I mean when I say restorative? Reconciliation can be a term that I feel can quickly empty out if non-Indigenous Canadians, such as myself, don't constantly check into what we mean and do when we say we are interested in reconciliation. A key element of the TRC report is underlined that it's not just teaching about residential schools that is desired, but the development of ongoing relationships of dignity, peace, and prosperity amongst Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. Part of this, as I'm sure you're aware, is Call to Action 79, in particular 79.2, which says the key element for the heritage community is to revising the policies, criteria, and practices of national historic commemoration in order to integrate Indigenous histories, heritage values, and memory practices into national history and heritage. To be clear, this is not adding history and stirring. Adding heritage values and memory practices that align with Indigenous epistemologies also means bringing in and integrating knowledges that colonialism attempted to erase from its land. And by doing this, by seeing this as a fundamental part of our commitment to developing and maintaining ongoing reconciliatory relationships, we can better bring into alignment, into harmony, a relationship with the earth, with the land, with the water, with the air, in ways that can lead to greater climate justice. And this is so important. This is so important in today's world because we are out of alignment. And this knowledge that developed from the land are the lessons that we can bring into greater alignment for us. We can't forget them. We can't forget that they were there. We can't forget that our colonial system of government actively tried to erase them. And this, to me, is what is meant by heritage values and memory practices, to ensure that there is space to restore what is lost and to act on this restoration as a key element of what we bring to remembrance. I visited a small park in Toronto that was identified as a part of a provincial project of reconciliation. And yes, there were engravings of moccasins, and there were traditional marker trees, and they brought in stone from the Canadian Shield. But what I found missing was this concept of restoration, identification of the plants around us, identifying if they were native or not, identifying the stories associated with these plants. I wanted to know their names because, as Robin Wallachiner, professor and member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, has written, naming is the beginning of justice. For me, if this was a space of reconciliation, it would be a space for restoring the knowledge popularly lost due to colonialism in ways that restore memories to the land and water that make us greater stewards of this place. In other words, we need our commemoration to restore what was, or what has been, or what could be lost, so that we're able to restore it and move into the future with this knowledge. And finally, radical. Commemoration should be democratic, participatory, restorative, and radical, if you're brave enough. All these activities that I talked about can be engaged with in ways that doesn't fundamentally challenge the status quo. But they can also be engaged with in ways that are underlaid with a desire for change, for greater equity, for greater democracy, and for greater justice. You can always go a step further out of your comfort zone to make space for others. Because this is what radical really means. Radical can be defined as relating to or affecting the fundamental nature of something, but to change the fundamental nature of something requires a shift in seeing, doing, and experiencing. And these shifts come from allowing others to take space. Thus, for commemoration to be radical, what needs to be brought to mind are the stories and experiences we don't yet have memories for. By being radical about our commemoration, we can shift the narrative, change the narrative to one better directed towards justice. To make space for commemorating, to make space for what needs to be brought to mind. The future we want, the future we need, and the future we have to make space for in order to bring better justice. Thus, to some, commemoration for the next 100 years can't just be about the past. We need to commemorate, to bring to remembrance, the future. Our future populations, our future relationship with land and the environment, a future with greater moments for justice and experiences of justice for all people. One more example, this is my home, situated next to a river and a valley that has been used for millennia. Beyond and around this river is one of the most globally influential cities in the world and one of the capitals of commerce and trade in Canada. Apparently, there's something to do with dinosaurs and tall men and basketball, but that's not part of my narrative. If I look down and around to the people that make this their home, I would see people representing 230 different nationalities and speaking 200 different languages. How could the past, present, and future experiences of this place, this moment, these people be brought to mind? How can we remember what has been so that we are clearer about what could be? Commemorative practices in the next 100 years need to be a key part of this conversation, if you're brave enough. Thank you. Merci. Make questions.